Hey everyone, it's Tom from LT Gaming, and today we're taking a look at Atre Dominance Wars, a new early access strategy game that I've been very curious about for a while. This is our Should You Buy series, where we play the game, give you our honest first impressions, and try to help you work out whether it's worth your money, your time, and in this case, handing over your evenings to a dangerous mix of RTS, 4X, heroes, spells, and all that good stuff. Now, before we jump in, if you do enjoy critical gaming coverage without the usual hype, then feel free to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel for more. It helps us grow massively and we appreciate it a lot. So with all that said, let's talk about Atre. Atre Dominance Wars is part real-time strategy, part 4X, part kind of GOG game. You're expanding across the map, capturing settlements, managing your avatars, researching spells, growing your armies, and then basically trying to take over the world. On paper, it's exactly the kind of hybrid we do like on this channel. Me and Luke adore the game June Spice Wars, for example, where everything just clicks. But Atre is one of those games that looks simple at first, but could quietly take a lot of your time up. So after about 10 hours with the game, mostly in the skirmish mode, the question is fairly simple: does all of this actually come together? So how do the mechanics work first and foremost? Well, essentially you're doing a lot of empire building, economy building, growing your armies and pushing towards world domination through omnipresence. You start with two avatars, which are basically hero units. They lead armies, explore, conquer and capture settlements. Importantly, they have different strengths and you have a lot of customization on this, and I like that. So a combat focused avatar might be great at taking a city, while a high charisma avatar is actually better at bringing it under your control. Settlements then become the backbone of your empire, producing troops, population and mana. Mana is the big one here. It fuels buildings, upgrades, recruitment, spell research and of course spell casting. This isn't a classic base building RTS, it's more of a real-time empire game about expansion, hero management and settlement growth, and then using magic to bend the map into your favour. So what is good about this game? Well, the strongest thing for me is once the basic loop clicks, there is a real proper strategy game here. It's not just about building units and throwing them at the nearest problem, although naturally I did try that at first because of course that's what everyone does in the beginning, but I found the real fun is in how systems overlap. Your avatars mean something, settlements will matter, mana really bloody matters, and casting spells is integral to the game, and quite quickly the game starts asking you some decent strategic questions. Do you build villages around army production and push early, or do you try and focus on mana production and develop faster to unlock stronger spells, or do you try and invest in population and scale into a stronger late game? And I really liked this bit. The games did not feel the same, I could have different approaches. The settlement system gives you meaningful choices. While Atre does look simple at first, but there really is a lot going on under the surface. Adding points to your heroes, to different specializations for example, I have only really scratched the surface with this myself. The spell system is probably the best example of the complexity though. Early on it seems straightforward, you unlock something useful, you throw a fireball, maybe boost a settlement and you feel a bit pleased with yourself, but later on there is depth here. You can level spells, mix and match them, start building towards proper synergies, and I'll be totally upfront, I haven't worked out how to crack this yet, but it could become one of the game's strongest mechanics over time. It shows depth and I like that. It gives Atre a real identity. It's not just a fantasy RTS with wizards sprinkled on top. Magic is tied into everything, your economy, your expansion, your armies, and your long-term strategy. And I think this also opens up real potential for multiplayer here. I didn't manage to get a multiplayer match going, so I can't judge that side properly, but I absolutely see how this could be a very competitive mode. A really important aspect is the settings allow for a good amount of customization. You can make games quicker and more approachable, and it feels important for this sort of hybrid game. Not everyone wants every match to become a 4-hour marathon, sometimes you want a 60-minute blast. So overall, Atre's strongest quality is its potential. There's good flow here, the systems start to connect, and even though I often had no idea what was going on with my spells and stuff, I still wanted to try another match with another attempt on strategy. And that's a very good sign when it's a strategy game. It has a very good, let's just have one more go quality. Now for the bad or what can be improved section, and I need to be very clear, Atre is very much an early access game, not in the sense that it's broken or unplayable, but you can see that there are missing layers around the good ideas. The biggest issue for me was onboarding. For a game that mixes RTS, 4X, hero management and all these development ideas, a tutorial doing the heavy lifting is what you would want. And some important things just aren't explained clearly enough. Spellcasting, unit recruitment, avatar leveling, unit evolution, and how certain resources connect into the wider economy leaves you kind of prodding around a bit. And I don't mind learning a strategy game, don't get me wrong, but there's a difference between discovery and sitting there thinking, right, what on earth am I doing now? So a more dedicated learning scenario would definitely help a lot here. The second issue is combat. It's functional, but there is some light kind of rock, paper, scissors thinking in there. It's not the strongest part of the game. Battles do become repetitive, especially when you're clearing garrisons or dealing with similar fights again and again. Auto combat helps, but that also says something. If I'm happy to skip a system too much, it's probably not the bit carrying the experience. So for me, the wider strategic layer was much more interesting than the actual fighting. The choices I made around expansion, how to level up my avatar, even though I didn't really know what I was doing there, settlements, customization, and spells are where the game feels strongest. Combat doesn't have that spark quite yet. Then there are also moments where the game feels a bit bare bones. The interface is nice and I like the overall presentation, but the clarity of information could use some work. I'd like some better economic overview screens, clearer research paths, and better explanation of mana sources and points of interest on the map could be expanded a bit as well. There's limited campaign content right now, with Skirmish doing most of the heavy lifting, so if you want a full single player campaign experience, it's probably not quite there yet. And I do think this is something that will balance more over time as they add additional content. So the problem with Atre isn't that the ideas are weak, actually quite the contrary. The game just needs a bit more clarity, a bit more polish, a bit more content, to be honest. So the question, should you buy Atre Dominance Wars? And I'll give a bit of a nuanced answer here. For me, it's not a clean yes for everyone, but for many it will be a keep an eye on this while it develops. But if you enjoy RTS 4X hybrids, you've connected with games like June Spice Wars or Northgard, where the fun for you comes from map control, long-term planning, economic management, and pressure building over time, then I think you're going to find Atre very interesting. There is a good strategic core, the avatar system has some interesting and meaningful choices, and there is some good depth with the spell system as well. But you need to be comfortable with early access. Right now the tutorial could be stronger, combat isn't the best part of the game, and the overall package does need more content, but I do know from the dev himself that it is coming. Now I know the game is going to be priced somewhere between $20 and $25, which I think is a very fair price. So my overall verdict is the following: Atre is worth watching and potentially worth buying for the right kind of strategy player. It's not fully there yet, the foundation is strong, the ideas are very interesting, and after about 10 hours I still want to play more. And honestly, for an early access strategy game, that's usually the sign that I'm looking for. However, if you are the type of player who wants a full campaign experience and a lot of the bells and whistles, I'd probably wishlist it and watch for updates. But if you're happy to jump in early, learn the systems, experiment with different builds and follow as it grows, I think you'll have a good time here. Alright guys, that will do it for today. Let me know in the comments what you think about Atre and if there's any other game that you guys want us to review in the Should You Buy series, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye now.